Who's your family?
Black. We all family.
What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Black of the Movies Season 2. We're here. It's happening. And today, we're here with someone extremely special because this month is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm pretty big on mental health, especially where movies are concerned. So it's kind of very funny and poignant as to who I have here today. Today I have hold on, wait a second. Hey! This is my cousin Jasmin, you guys!
Hi.
For those that have been watching and watched the first season, Jasmin is the mother of my godson, Elijah Banks, who was here to talk about the Proud Family movie.
Yes. We all remember that, right?
No words from him. Just me carrying on the conversation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, kids.
That part.
They're super extroverted at like 7 to 10.
Yeah.
And then once they hit 10 specifically, they're just like gone.
And not here.
Not here.
Can I visit the land you're in? Come back.
They're just gone. He'll get
As he prepared for it, right? He was ready.
The tweens to teens time.
Yeah,
I feel
your
like
soul
you're
turns
so
12.
insecure and stuff and vulnerable. So you don't really want to put yourself out there like you used to as like a 8-year-old or a 9-year-old. Everything changes.
Everything changes. That's that, we call it weird stage. Okay. Yeah. And it's like I thought I was so prepared going through 2 of them, but it's definitely different with a boy.
Yeah.
We're used to the girl stuff. The boys is different, for sure.
Yeah.
But we were prepared till he got here, and then everything was like, boop.
You know, he'll open up as time goes on.
I believe so, because he has that personality.
Yeah. So tell the people what you do.
Ooh, okay.
Because it's very important to why I'm having you here for mental health awareness. So I want you to tell the people what you do.
Okay, well, hi. Everyone calls me Miss Jasmin in my field. I've been doing it since 2003, so I just did my 21st celebration of being in my year, an anniversary of doing basically mental health and emotional health. I am now currently a counselor 3 in a men's prison, and so I help them get life skilled ready to go in front of the board, which approves them for a date to come back into society. I'm currently on the yard that houses lifers, which is they got 25 to life and or life without, which means a life without the possibility of parole. Well, thank God that California is going to the new California model, which is giving everyone a chance to prove that they can go back into society. So it's kind of like a blessing and a curse in a way, because it's scary to them because now they get the opportunity to really have hope to get out, but also society and including our veteran CDCR custody are kind of like trying to get used to the transition that these guys might be able to come home and live in your neighborhood. So I just love what I do. I've worked with the youth, to women and children, to now being in a prison. In August will be 4 years. And so I tell everybody I love what I do and I happen to get paid for it. So I'm a counselor 3 there. I'm licensed by the state of California. I am an MHRT, and I am also very well trained in trauma-informed care, evidence-based therapy as well.
I love that. And I always love hearing you talking about it because, you know, the prison system, and it's not the best, obviously. And you're actively helping to rehabilitate people. And that is super cool. So I brought you here for that. But then also because you are a huge Tupac fan.
Woo, woo.
And if you guys couldn't tell by the shirt that Jasmin is wearing, or if you couldn't tell by just the name of this video,
This is so perfect, right?
It's
I'm
so perfect,
excited.
and we're here to talk about Poetic Justice.
Let's get it.
Now, if you haven't seen Poetic Justice, I strongly implore you to go watch it before you continue this video, because, season 2 of Black of the Movies, if they haven't seen anything before, they should know. I will spoil everything.
Okay, well.
Because we're delving into it completely.
Well, let's do it.
Let's freaking do it. Now, last night when I watched it,
Okay.
it was not DSG's first time
watching
it.
Okay.
Which was so funny because he grew up in LA. And I was just like, you haven't watched it. That's strange. But okay.
Well, he kept his black card, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We gonna keep him with his black card.
Yeah. But he watched it and he enjoyed it. And I love it. I've always loved Poetic Justice.
Yes.
I think it is so important to watch if you want like a real slice of Black culture and Black community.
For sure. All through it. For sure. Even though it had a continued narrative, it definitely gave parts of the reality of just moving through their day. Right? Okay.
It really did. And if you haven't, as I said, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. But this is a movie about Justice, who is our main character. And after her boyfriend is killed, she is in the process of grieving. And everyone may not think that she should still be in the process of grieving because, unfortunately, people die to gun violence every other day, especially when you're dating someone who is involved in a gang.
Or that lifestyle.
Or that lifestyle, it tends to happen. So everyone around her is just like, you need to get over it. Meanwhile, Lucky, which will be her love interest towards the end of the film, he is a post office worker. And he has a daughter. And he doesn't want to be working at the post office forever. He wants to get into the rap business, and he wants to be able to rap and make music with his cousin who lives in Oakland.
Yes.
And so these two people, their paths cross
A few times. Until
quite a
really
few times
happens, right?
until they can't escape each other, because now they're on this trip together up to Oakland for Justice, her and her hair show, and for him to drop off all the mail for the post office. And it gets a little dicey.
Yes, it gets intense, right?
It gets
Which
a little
is
dicey, a little
reality.
intense. Yeah, it is the reality. And, we got some heavy hitters. You got Janet Jackson. You got Tupac Shakur. You've got Maya Angelou, Regina King. And this is a John Singleton film. So,
There you go.
Automatically a classic.
Automatically. Forever.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Happen to have 2 DVDs.
Hey.
Poetic Justice. And I was having my issue, right?
I know.
I'm like, wait a minute. So DVDs, right? Who still watches DVDs? Who has something to watch DVDs on nowadays?
Man. Listen, with the climate of actually being able to own media in the world of streaming, you should have DVDs.
I agree, totally.
Because they'll take it off of everywhere and then won't actually have it for you to even purchase.
Well, guess what? Rent or buy. Rent or buy. I'm like, though, watch Poetic Justice? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the issue.
I know. So let's get into it. I've had a lot of thoughts about this, especially while I was watching it. I think it's definitely a heavier film than most of the ones that we've covered on this podcast.
Yes.
So, huge trigger warning for people
for sure
that have experienced anything similar to Justice, and just for grieving in general. And that's why I love this film too, because it's so honest about the grieving process.
Right.
It is gross, it is muddy, it is messy, it is sticky, and you can't fast forward it.
Yeah, and I also wanted to point out what you said earlier as far as, dealing with someone that's in that lifestyle, which if you happen to grow up in that culture and or neighborhoods with an S, how about just if that person was never involved in that lifestyle, right? What if it's just, I mean, we have a lot of deaths alone of just, some people call it the wrong place at the wrong time, right? So that happens a lot too. So we're definitely going to grieve over, this happened at a drive-in movie theater.
At a drive-in
and so when you choose to shoot up or target one person, we have many other people around that was just there watching a movie and maybe caught one of those bullets as well. And so let that be on your heart as well, even though your mate has been murdered right in front of you. Trauma, mental health, right? What if someone else caught a bullet that they didn't even focus on?
Right. That's so true.
And it's trauma just to be in a situation like that, right? So now I'm triggered, and now I don't never want to go to a drive-in movie just because it was a whole shootout.
Or not want to go anywhere at all.
Yeah, we could touch that too. We know people that have a lot of anxiety behind triggering and or trauma event, as we call it, and now it's affect their lives. So we call those secondary victims, right? So the primary victim will be the one who got shot, and the primary victim is also Justice / aka Janet. However, we have the secondary victims, which is everyone else who was there. Then the secondary victim is everyone connected to it, the victim's family, right? And now we have the ripple effect. So in Victims Impact, we teach the ripple effect to all the incarcerated individuals now. We don't call them inmates. Where we're teaching them that you just then murder and or hurt your primary victim besides the family, your family, because it's a loss, right? You're now incarcerated for the rest of your life.
Right.
But also the one who also got his life taken. But what about the person or kid that was just sitting in the car and heard a gunshot? So we're teaching the ripple effect. The ripple effects, the whole community suffers behind that one act.
Yo.
So it's deep, and it gets deeper. And sometimes we do things and not think about who it all affects as a whole, which is all of us.
That's very, very true. So, and the good thing is, John Singleton didn't just give us sad all the way through. He did give us a lot of very funny moments, of a lot of culturally important moments that will literally be said all the time for all time. Not the TVA. Sorry. Wrong show.
Right.
This is what happens when you watch too much Disney Plus. That's how it goes. So I want to get into some of our favorite scenes.
Okay.
And I'll let you go first. I have 3 of them. We'll bounce back and forth.
Right. Okay.
And we'll do it that way. What is your first favorite scene?
So my first favorite scene, as we already talked about, the actual murder in her face. But let's go with the first favorite scene where she's in her house, right? This is the grieving and mourning process. It's, if you guys didn't notice, and when you do watch the movie again, right? Because now we're going to look at it from a different perspective. So now she's in her home. If you notice, the whole entire house is black. It's dark. So that automatically tells you she's still grieving. I do want to do a side note. For anyone and everyone that is grieving in the morning, please do not have the world tell you when it's supposed to end. You're going to grieve and mourn for the rest of your life. Yes, it might get easier because time is going to keep going, right? But you are going to have those triggers. We call those triggers the 4 or 5 senses, right? You might smell something. Oh my God, you're listening. Let's talk about maybe the old school people, 93.5 K-Day, right? So say if something happened during the time you was listening to Backyard Boogie by Ice Cube and Mac 10. And something may have happened at an actual Backyard Boogie when that was playing, right? And so now you can tell when she goes in her home and she's fixing her hair, she's looking, she has a record player playing. You are in a point where he's showing you that she's still grieving. She's still mourning. The whole entire house is dark. And if anyone has dealt with grieving, mourning, and loss, let alone depression, all mental health, that most of the time we don't want light in, right? We want to be in. We want it dark. We want it isolated. We want to be in that dark place. So the dark place that you're in mentally and emotionally, your environment is going to show I'm in a dark place. And so the beginning of that actual part to the rest of the movie, if you notice, it started off with her being in a dark place. But I love the music that was playing. So that's the first thing that showed that her just trying to get her life together. She showed her closet, right? It was all black. Sometimes I'm not in a dark place, but my wardrobe happens to be all black. But I thank God that when she made a decision, it was time for her to go back to work. What did she put on? All white. And she put her hair up. Let my face show. So you can see that she's like, I need to go outside. Right. And what was playing in the background? Maya Angelou, phenomenal woman, right? So you can tell she was pumping herself up that I'm not moving on. And we always tell people you're not moving on, but what you are doing is you're moving forward because life is happening. So we're not saying to move on. We're not saying get over it, but it was a perfect example of how do I move forward to keep doing life because I'm still alive. I'm still breathing.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, my first one was of Justice in the Mirror when Stevie Wonder's Never Dreamed You'd Leave in Summer is playing. I wrote that it displays how easily one can fall into a grief attack in any moment. Janet Jackson's facial expressions hold so much weight because you see like the changes in her face. She's trying to be fine. She's like seeing what it would look like if her hair was up, how would she look, or at least this is how I interpret it, of how she would look at someone if she were to date another person or fall in love with another person. And then she's realizing the severity of what she's feeling and remembering, oh, the person that I was in love with was killed, was taken from me. And you could see the grief attack begin to happen. And then by the end of the scene, when it's doing the slow pull out and she's staring into the mirror and she's not even crying at this point. Tears are just falling. And she's not even actively within the grief attack.
Right.
And it's so cool to see Janet act like that because that's some serious acting.
And so you got to think, where does she pull from her place from?
Man.
Right.
Well, I know John Singleton had her do her research, watch a couple of films, and then read a lot of poetry. So it was interesting to see. I don't know. It's masterful the way that facial expressions go, and I always quote my YouTube dads at Cinema Therapy, the strongest piece of acting is the human face.
Period. Right? Because I call it the mask. I know I've definitely been in a place of grieving and loss from a loved one, and you just put the mask on. Those who have been through a lot of trauma just know how to put it on better. A lot of people go back and forth about fake it till you make it. And no, you just need to be real and your feelings are valid. It is. But sometimes I got to put the mask on to get up and do what I need to do. And then when I get home,
that's her at the salon. You know?
Right. So, I do appreciate and I do validate people. I do affirm people that's like, I'm putting a mask on today. And I'm like, if that's what you got to do to get through your day, no matter what you're going through mentally and emotionally, put that mask on and do what you need to do just to walk outside. Right? And so I do affirm her, and she put the mask on.
She did. And honestly, this is what you got to do sometimes to get through working.
For sure.
What's your second favorite scene?
Okay, so classic, how you said, I'm like, I love it. Soon as so they're like driving down a highway, right? And what do they first do? Classic Black culture. Do you smell that? Do you smell that? Yes, that is barbecue. So I felt like there was so much emotional roller coaster of up and down at this cookout, but I just loved how, yes, I could show up to a family reunion and be like, we all cousins. Hey, cousin. Hey, cousin. And I know that was like a running theme for me, for all my family that's watching, that when it was 4th of July or something about barbecue, and I was seeing that, hey, cousin, with his big old smile from the cookout, what you cooking? Hey, cousin, save me a plate. And I used to text all my cousins that. But I just thought that was just a classic of just like having the elderly women sitting and they're just like talking about everybody and gossiping about everybody. And the domino game and card game is going and the kids are running around. And I believe from what I remember that Lucky, Tupac, and Janet Justice, they didn't come from a huge family. So they were totally engulfing it and just feeling all kind of different emotions if you watch it through a different lens of just like they were overwhelmed, but also you could tell they were really enjoying it because they didn't come from a bunch of family.
Right.
But they got in there and they fitted right in. That was classic to me. That was one of my second favorite parts of the cookout. The whole thing was just hilarious.
And I love that Maya Angelou was there.
Yes, and I don't think people didn't see that like little what do we call it where they have this
Like an Easter egg.
yeah, or like pop up celebrity like when they just
A
there
cameo.
you go.
Thank you, not DSG.
Yes, like a cameo, and so like when I brought that up, and I'm thinking, oh, she just wrote the poem and stuff, but when I looked out, I'm like, there she is. So I think that was super cool. And let me tell you guys, I just have to put this disclaimer out. Okay, I don't care how many times you watch a movie, you gonna always find something different that you missed when you watch a movie, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I definitely missed that. Maybe because I was just in Tupac land, I don't know.
Yeah, you know, he was very gorgeous, so very alluring, so I understand. It makes sense to me.
But yeah, that was my second one. What do you think?
I think...
Like, what stood out probably mostly to you about the cookout scene? Because that was pretty, like, a dominant scene in the actual movie. Like, they were there for a minute.
I think what stood out to me mostly in that scene was how much I realized I did not like Isha's character.
Okay, so explain.
I was not a fan of her at all. Like, the drinking, sure.
Okay.
You know.
Classic, I guess.
You know, when you're an alcoholic or unchecked alcoholic.
There you go.
You know, you tend to, your entire self changes. Mm-hmm. And you're all of a sudden this, like a nega Scott almost.
Yeah. We call it what?
A different person.
Some of us know it as liquid courage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Personality change.
Like, you're a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been a fan of that dynamic.
Okay.
Especially, like, in regular life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Growing up, I can see, like, the change when people are, like, heavily masking in order to either fit in or in order to do something. And they're actively doing it. But Isha's just drinking because that's how who knows what she's dealing with.
Okay.
Who knows what's in her brain as to why she drinks. But I was watching it last night and I was just like, man, I really don't like her. She's not a good friend.
And so then you got to look at, I like that you said, like, what is she masking? You know, if you notice that it was shown when she was sober, right? And maybe she wasn't. I guess her personality was kind of different when she was getting her hair done and when she showed up to her house. And so you kind of tell she kind of had that loud outgoing, but when she started drinking, it was like her thing. Yeah. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, right, if she grew up in the hood, everything she was going through, was it a norm? Because she's like, everybody else was drinking while I was a kid. Now this is what I do. Or was it, I feel uncomfortable being around men, so I'm going to drink to be around men. Like, what is the underlying, and back to mental health is when we're going through trauma or when we're constantly seeing something that might be my norm, it's not other people's norm. So if it's not your norm to be around people who drink all the time, then it is going to stand out just a little bit more to you that, okay, something shift, they're faded now. But if that's all you've seen in your life, it's just like, oh, they're drunk. That's what people do.
Right.
But definitely, but maybe it is social, right? Sometimes I know that and it's just not the black culture. We could go into most different cultures, at least the brown culture, which is Hispanics and black people, that a function's not happening without alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. Happy functions, sad functions. Where's the alcohol?
But
right?
when you're drinking so much alcohol, or your automatic like MO when you're drunk is to turn into a completely different person and not only put your safety in harm's way, but also put your friend's safety in harm's way. Especially because y'all are traveling with two niggas that y'all don't even really know like that.
And it could have been a whole different type of situation.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, your safe place, and this is what I teach too, your safe place doesn't mean it's everybody else's safe place, right? So if your safe place is over here, if your safe place is to smoke marijuana, if your safe place is liquor, if your safe place, we could go deeper into fighting or whatever your case may be, that doesn't mean it's my safe place. So we just need to be cognitive that my safe place necessarily might not be everybody else's safe place that I'm with. Because it probably was her safe place, right? Drinking, I feel cool. And, sometimes I do this when people get to tripping, including my kids. Like, look at you showing out.
Right.
Because sometimes we have to put the mirror up. You might say camera up, but you got to put the mirror up. And some people have no clue they're even acting like that. Some people, you might not have any substances involved, but when you go from a 0 to 100 real quick and you're angry, that's your safe place because anger produces bravado, but anger is the secondary emotion as well. Yeah. The primary emotion is you're in fear, you're in pain, or you're hurt. So if you're acting out of anger, what else is going on there? How can we prevent that? So that was her safe place, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be safe. And now you're drinking and filling your liquor and doing whatever you're doing, loose and all that. Now I'm unsafe. What comes up with that, right? So I totally agree, and I'm glad that you bring up you are putting everyone else in unsafety because you're in your safety.
Yeah. Which is typically how it goes. Unless your safe space, if your coping mechanism and your safe space is healthy. Then congratulations, you've gotten to that point in your mental health journey.
Right.
Good for you. It took me 7 years, I want to say, to get to a good place where all of my coping mechanisms are healthy.
Okay.
Except for making jokes when I'm in pain. Because I will still make jokes when I'm in pain.
Right, and everybody's freaking out, let alone if you have a few people around, because I totally get it. But when you have people around that's not used to dark humor.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm crying and laughing at the same time. Why isn't everybody else laughing? That was funny. And everybody was like, that wasn't funny.
Not DSG is behind making these faces too. Because not DSG knows. I'd be in the hospital with extreme stomach pains. Okay. And making all these jokes, and the nurses are looking at each other like,
is she serious?
Is something wrong with her? No, nothing's wrong.
She's in her safe place. And this is what I do.
And this is what I do.
I love weirdos. We're the best.
I think I'm going to change my second favorite scene since you mentioned that one. Okay. But I have a backup. Okay. My second favorite scene actually is when they first get into the post office truck and Justice has to be sit with Tupac.
Yeah, she's like, I'm getting in the back with you. She's like, girl.
She's like, no, girl, I'm trying to Mac. Stay in the front.
You messing up my Mackin session.
And the conversation goes from being it was never pleasant from the get-go, right. But it goes from being at 5% leading up to them yelling at each other, being upset. Lucky's calling her a bitch. She goes on a feminist rant. They're like, F you, F you, F you, F you, F you. I'm going to get someone to fuck you up. And it ultimately leads with her getting out of the car.
Literally that girl, you on the side of the road looking crazy.
And she's so serious. She was about to walk. She was about to walk all
when we
that
in that
way.
mode, right? When we in that mode, we
right. It might take me longer, but now here's where I am.
Can I share something on that?
Yeah.
And so this is something that I definitely learned during my mentoring session about a couple of years ago. Well, I'll say about 5 or 6 years ago. And so now I teach it to my kids and also to my clients. I call them my other community. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said right now? And does it need to be said by me? You should always run yourself through those 3 checks and you'll find yourself in some safe place because sometimes it might need to be said, but it might not need to be said right now and it probably don't need to be said by you. But okay, maybe it do need to be said right now because you got to stay in the moment, right? Because if I go back to it, that person might not feel it if I give that message in that moment. So it does need to be said right now. But it probably does need to be said. But does it need to be said right now? Because what happens if you confront somebody in an audience? What are they going to do? They're going to go on a fence. It's in front of an audience. Now I got to defend myself. I feel attacked. So yeah, it does need to be said right now. It does need to be said, but maybe this is not the right time to say it because there's people watching and they're not going to respond to you if it was just you and that person. Mm-hmm. But if you did it in front of an audience, now they're not going to receive it. Mm-hmm. And then maybe it does need to be said. Maybe it might be a safe place, but does it need to be said by you? You might not be the right deliverer. You know the relationships that you have with people. right? And so, yeah, it does need to be said right now. It does need to be said, but maybe it don't need to be said by you.
Right.
So if I'm the person and I know this person's not going to receive it from me, but it does need to be said and it does need to be said right now, maybe I'll pull Ashanti aside. Look, you kind of deliver things better than me with this person. So let me drop something in your ear before this person leaves for the day. I would like for you to put them aside because they're going to have to feel it like, hey, can I get some suggestions that was kind of maybe offensive when you said that or did that. So I always tell people, try to run yourself through that. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said right now? And does it need to be said by me?
Yeah. And, unfortunately, Isha kind of threw her to the wolves in that moment. And they already weren't feeling each other after Lucky's failed attempt at macking her in the salon. But they were both just kind of mean to each other in that moment. And I was telling that DSG, I'm just like, I think this was my first enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
I think that was my first one ever.
Because they was getting it.
Because I love a good enemies to lovers. You see my bookcase?
Yes.
I
still got to go shopping.
I love romance novels and stuff.
But they were
I love
on.
a good enemies to lovers. And they were serious enemies to lovers. For me, if it was me and Justice, her area, I would not be able to move on from that. I'd be like, yeah, I'm good.
Nowadays, we have something called Uber. Okay, so you think I'm getting ready to get in the truck back? And she's still, and I mean, us women, we always got something to say, right? He's driving you. You still get back in the truck. They still gone. And I love how men, I really appreciate how quickly they can move on from things because what she's still mad, right? Women, we know how to keep that grudge a little bit longer. When she got in the truck, they still laughed about it. Lucky still was like, they still gonna hunt you. And they laughed about it, and he was able to continue to drive in it, right? He totally was like, separate emotion. This is funny. Women be tripping.
He's like, at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go up there anyways and do my job.
Right. She's still hot.
What was your final favorite scene?
My final favorite scene, I really appreciate how you brought up, and I'm like, oh, segue moment, how you talked about Ish being drunk, right? So I put the girl talk. And I think that is just so important where it was such a raw moment.
Oh, when they're on the side of the road?
Right, and she's like, girl, come here. Girl,
grab
talk.
her by
and
the
she
sleeve.
looking like, what is going on? Now, it needed to be said, and it definitely needed to be said by her because that's her best friend.
Right.
Now, you have to look at the situation, but did it need to be said right then? I mean, yes, it's a movie, so she probably wasn't really drunk, but it was kind of like, are you going to give all that to a drunk person in that moment, right? Are they going to be able to retain what you're saying in the seriousness? Because that could really go like it did. Great.
Right.
With the crying and all that stuff, which is running our drunken symptoms. But the other drunken symptoms, like, why are you grabbing like me? And they could have been straight squabbing, right?
For real.
But I love how raw and authentic that the girl talk was. And so one of my organization's philosophy, I wanted to read a snippet of it because as soon as I saw that and I reflected on that, because I do want a friend and I have several, I don't call my friends, I call them family. If you got to a friend point with me, you're family, you're a sister, cousin, or whatever.
Right.
But certain part of our philosophy for the organization that I work for says this: we do not treat friendship delicately, but with the roughest of courage. For when they are real, they're the most solid and the most powerful things we know. There are two elements that go into the composition of friendship. One is truth and one is tenderness. So I should be able to come to you with the roughest of courage. Some people are so scared to tell their friend something. She probably wanted to tell her girl, you drinking all the time. And she probably could have been told her this years ago. But this was the moment, right? And so for you to have a real authentic friendship, you should be able to come in truth. The truth was, girl, you always drinking. And she said it, you reminded me of my goddamn mama.
Right.
Right? But the tenderness was with the emotion and compassion of you remind me of my mom. I felt like Justice totally handled that in the moment, how it needed to be handled with the rawness, the realness, and with unfortunately, the assertive slash aggressiveness. Like, she ain't gonna get in no other way because she hood and we with the shits. I'm gonna have to snatch you up. Let me get your attention, because enough
Get
is
you together
enough.
real quick.
Right. And she threw the drink on. I mean, it was a whole. Sometimes we have to be theatrical. Plus, black people are known for that. But sometimes you have to do the theatrics and be super animated to get someone's attention. And so I really appreciate the girl talk. I appreciated how raw it was, and I really appreciate that, friendship is the most solid thing. I know if I go real quick, not trying to, but biblically is sometimes a friend is more your brother or your sister than your real brother or sister, right? Friendship is a whole different relationship. This is something we're doing all day, every day on purpose. We're choosing to have this relationship. And so I think it's very important that you could choose a friend that will be able to have fun with you and then be able to say, come here, friend.
Right.
Let me get you together real quick. And so I think that was beautiful. And that's the third one that I chose, because I think that's also a part of mental health. Why would I want a friend that's going to watch me be depressed and spiral and isolate?
And never say anything.
And if that's my thing, okay, you give me my space. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if I'm still moving around doing my life thing. But when you see it constantly spiraling into, unfortunately, mental health does go into severe depression, and then everybody wakes up one day when somebody commits suicide and be like, oh my God. But it was like, how many signs did you have?
Right.
Come knock on my door. I've had family members be like, well, guess what we doing? Sitting on your porch until you open the door.
Right.
And sometimes, depending if you have some mental health challenges, it's really important to have your support system and your community that knows your patterns, right? That knows, we know the happy person and we know the depressed person. And we know when we okay, friend, so this is what I'm doing. I'm coming over to help you clean your house up, and we opening the blinds. How do I sit with you and help you get out of this darkness?
Right. Because there are some people that have a shoddy support system, where their support system will literally see all the signs of them being depressed and be like DW from Arthur and be like, joke's on you, I can't read.
Right. And you want to be able to pry for that, and that's okay, especially if you have someone like me that knows how to wear the mask well. Right? But if you know my pattern and you're really dedicated to the relationship with me, you will know, yeah, Miss Jasmin, Cousin Jasmin, niece, nephew, sister Jasmin, whatever I am to you, you're going to know, yeah, she wears the mask well, but guess what? Knock, knock, friend. We're here.
Honestly.
Save lives. And that's one of my hashtags. Get it and hashtag save lives, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. If you have an authentic relationship with someone, yes, you give them some space, but sometimes we just got to do that extra pop-up.
Yeah. And, be thankful for having people like that in your lives.
For real, because some people don't.
Right. And thankfully, Isha did. Shout outs to Justice.
Right.
A real one.
A real one. She like, girl, get it together.
Okay. My last favorite scene is between Lucky and Justice.
Okay.
I really liked the beach scene.
Oh, I was going to pick that too.
I love, the inner monologues that both of them are having, because they're both, they know that they're interested in each other, but they're almost trying to talk themselves out of it. Number one. Number two, when they finally sit down and Justice shares little bits and pieces of her family and her history, they kiss for the first time. And then Justice immediately gets up. She's panicking. She's like, no, this is wrong. I can't do this. Because when you're grieving, especially someone that you loved, someone that you were with and you loved, you're just like, this isn't right. What if they're watching from up above? You know?
So what did you think she was like? What would you say the first two primary feelings she probably was feeling in that moment?
She probably was feeling a lot of panic.
Okay.
And then also, I think the panic comes from, at some point you feel loyal to that person.
That's what I was going to say.
And even though they're gone, it's like, how can I move forward? And you know what? I think it's survivor's remorse. It's like, how can I move forward from this while you're not here? It doesn't feel right to be able to do things when you're not here, which is sometimes how I still feel about Grandma.
Of course.
So she gets up and she's in a panic, and then she's like, wait, no, I deserve
That's right.
to be loved. I deserve to, even if this is just a fling.
Right.
It's okay for me to move forward.
It's okay.
And that's why she goes back and then kisses him again, because she's fully accepting it.
And I think that it's just so amazing how they did show that, because it's natural to have, it's called grief remorse, right? So she had grief remorse. We all have grief remorse. I definitely have it with some of the losses that I've experienced, from really granddaddy to like actually January
So
of this
recently,
year, right?
yeah.
And so, you know, you feel that like, how do I move forward? But I really just love how she said, you know what, in her mind, in her emotions, in her actions, that, no, I deserve this. And so I think we should continuously focus on that, from going all the way from back to the beginning of the movie, which is self-care. And so when you're doing self-care while dealing with your mental health challenges, you are going to allow yourself to experience life in the mental health. And that's okay. And I'm glad that she said, no, I deserve this. It's a human nature in the divine, intimate, supernatural, and natural realm to want to be loved, to want to be touched.
Right.
And in that moment, he did that for her. And it probably had nothing to do with him. It was everything that I need this. I miss my mate. I miss touch. Not just the mate, but she even talks about her mother and her grandmother.
She literally has no one.
And so she allowed Lucky as a human, not just Lucky, but as a human, she's like, I need this. And it's okay. When you need something and it's healthy, go get what you need.
Right.
Period.
Honestly.
And I'm glad she did that for herself. She
too.
deserved it.
And I think, when I'm thinking about it, I don't think there are a lot of Black films that actually show, like, the process of grieving.
You want to create one?
I mean,
Let's do it.
my idea list is pretty strong in the darks, and I've made screenplays before, but maybe one day.
Okay. Well, no, I'm down.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Okay, we're gonna talk about that afterwards.
Okay, let's get it.
Let's move on, because I will, as the previous viewers from season 1 know, I am autistic, and I will go on a rant.
Okay.
I will go on a rant, and it's like, ooh, yes, you're interested in my special interest? I'm there. And I will talk forever.
You know, I'm there for you every single day. We're there for each other.
Oh, brother. You should have seen.
Real quick, I know this is like so off of everything that we're talking about, but literally, you want to know what I saw the next day when you told me about the ducks thing.
Yes.
And then you sent me the pictures of the ducks.
Yes.
That morning, I was taking Elijah to school, and this guy is literally in the middle of the street, and guess what he was doing? It was the mama and the daddy duck with some ducks. And I'm like honking. I turned my hazard lights on because I'm thinking about you, cousin. And he helped, and we was like sitting there. And I was like, I would get out the car to make sure we don't have day number 2. And that man helped the mama and the daddy duck with their little ducklies. They went all the way across Foothill. Literally the next morning after we talked about that, I saw a family of ducks, and he made sure they got across the street, girl.
Oh, yes. That warms my
heart. And I meant to tell you that, but we got so much going on. But just side note.
Like, that warms my heart.
He made sure.
For everyone that doesn't know, is in my day-to-day life, I happen to save a gaggle of baby ducks. Like, what was that like last week or 2 weeks ago?
I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago.
Like 2 weeks ago. And unfortunately, due to the circumstances of how that happened, it did affect my mental health pretty seriously.
Yes, it did.
But the ducks are safe, and that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
So let's get into some trivia.
Okay, let's get it.
Because I feel like you know all the answers to these.
Okay, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you're kind of a pro when it comes
Oh.
to this film and when it comes to Tupac. So I think you know.
Okay.
So, first question.
Okay.
Who wrote all of Justice's poetry for this film?
I don't know that. I'm gonna be straight out
I'll
honest.
give you a guess.
Okay.
You can go ahead and guess.
Tupac. No,
No.
just because I know Rose grew from concrete, right? So I don't know.
It's okay. All right, I'll tell you. Maya Angelou, actually.
I was going to say that, but I was like, that would have been so cliche that she did it, but okay.
And that's how it happened. John Singleton, I guess, spent a lot of time trying to write the poetry for the film, and then just kept finding that he's just knocking his head against the wall. So he asked Maya, and she happily obliged.
I did not know that. Okay, see, I didn't know that.
Small note, because autism. For those of you that don't know, Maya Angelou, she's one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou is from I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings.
Yes.
And it literally says, "It be like that sometimes."
It be like that sometimes.
That's literally straight from that book.
Okay.
And
Nice.
I think it's so funny. And I wonder if, like, every single time I hear someone say that, I'm just like, I wonder if you know the origin of this or how long we've been saying this in the Black community.
No, because some people just, what do they call it? Jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Right? But it be like this sometimes.
It really do be like that sometimes. Okay. Number 2.
Okay. See, I didn't know that, y'all.
It's okay. Who was offered the role of Lucky before Tupac was cast?
Oh my God. I'm supposed to know this.
And I'll give you a hint.
Give me a hint, because I know I saw this and read this.
It is another rapper.
I want to say this like on the tip of my tongue, but oh my God. Okay, give me an extra hint. West Coast rapper, I know that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
West Coast rapper.
I don't know why this name keeps popping up. I'm just going to say, was it Ice Cube?
Yes.
Yay!
It was Ice Cube. See, I told you you'd be good at this.
Okay. I'm
It
like, I
was
know I
Ice
read
Cube.
that somewhere. Okay, yes, get it.
At the time, he said that he didn't feel he was far along in his acting journey in order to actually do justice to a romantic film. And then also he was already committed to, I believe, Trespassers.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah, so he just had no time
Yes.
at that
I got
moment.
That right. Yay.
Yeah, you got it right. Okay, last one. True or false?
Okay.
Janet Jackson's ex-husband has a role in this film.
True.
Yes. Do you know what
I
role
remember
it is?
seeing his face.
Uh-huh.
I want to say, is it around the salon?
No.
Oh, okay. What was it?
It's actually in the post office when Lucky
They
and
was
Chicago
talking
are
to
talking
the Hispanic or
Yes.
Puerto Rican or yeah.
He's Mexican
Okay.
in the film. And his name in the film was EJ. But that is Renee Elizondo.
I remember that. Okay.
Former dancer and sometimes actor. And I'll have Not DSG put up this sick photo of Janet Jackson and her husband at the time. They looked so good together.
Yeah, they did.
Man.
So what did you think that was about? Like, you, Tupac Shakur, I'm going to be there. I don't need to part in it. Or was she saying, hey, part of me being in this, my husband needs to be in it? Or was it just like, what you think?
I don't know. I mean, I know that Janet and Tupac were not friends.
Yeah.
While filming this. They did not like each other at all.
And she was like,
She's like, oh.
Test. I won't even kiss him without one.
Right.
It was a whole thing.
It was a whole thing.
It was a whole thing. She's
So
like,
maybe he
I'm
was
up
in
here.
there.
You
Yeah.
got this hood rapper dude.
So maybe, maybe that's why she wanted him in at least like a small role.
Okay.
I'm sure
I see
he
that.
was already on set anyways, because that was her husband. So maybe she was like, yeah, I'm gonna need him to have a small role. Since I'm in this, I need you to do me a favor.
Because I'm trying to help him get it too, right? So
it's very plausible. But you did really great on the trivia. I was like, I don't know why you were so worried. You did great.
Okay, because I'm like, I be knowing all this stuff, and then you get that one thing where then you beat yourself up because you're like, I was supposed to know this.
That's me every day. All I do is intake ridiculous amounts of facts, and then someone will ask me where my car keys are, and I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so did you hear about the whole like Apple has an AirTag thing or something where you just
they
still
do.
researching now. I heard people put them in their shoes and all kind of stuff, right?
But I'm not gonna pay extra money for that.
Okay,
that's silly. All right, we've talked about the movie. You've got the trivia. I have one final question for you, and this has nothing to do with the movie.
Okay,
but everything to do with you as a person.
Okay,
if someone were to make a movie about your life, who or which artist would be on your soundtrack? So very similar to like Ryan Coogler and Kendrick Lamar for the soundtrack inspired by Black Panther.
My life. That's deep. That's a good one.
And I'll let you choose two if you can't decide.
Okay. I don't know if people really listen to her whole album, besides her commercial stuff, but I definitely probably would shoot for Mulatto. Just because, the color of our skin, and some of her songs talk about, some of the struggles that she's been through because of the color of her skin and the way she grew up, and all the stuff she has had go on to get to where she was at. So I think she would be able to articulate in some of this of my life in some of her songs. Let me see.
I'll have to listen to Mulatto. I haven't listened to much of her
I
stuff.
love her. And I don't want to. I don't think it's taboo, but I think I love the way he writes as well. Is I think Lecrae, and I think he will be able to articulate how I've been able to experience both sides of the streets of the world, and the trauma and the stuff I've been through per poverty and some celebrityism in the worldly life, and then be able to come back with the spiritual part with me growing up in the church, and just be able to articulate how I had to balance that. Okay, I'm going to this side of family where everything is wonderful and good and great and God and yay. Well, y'all getting ready to drop me off on Sunday night. Back to the hood, and then so I think he will be able to articulate how those two things go together, which some people will say is oil and vinegar, but through my therapy and different things that I have been able to process through, I would not be who I am today without being able to experience both worlds. I can relate. That. So Mulatto on some hood, like, let me tell you how it looks like to be in my world and the skin that I'm in, and then the secular and spiritual world with Lecrae, like, this is how she combined all of it to be who she is today.
I love that.
That was deep. Thank you.
Of course.
You made me stop and think. What do you think? Since you had to have some ideas for you to even want to pose that question, Shanti.
Well, I always ask that question because, Black Panther is like my favorite film of all time. And before that film, I don't think people were really doing original soundtracks like that, with that frame of mind of having like one person to curate the entirety of it. I think if I had to choose one person to curate the whole thing, it would either be Missy Elliott, because I've always loved her music. It would either be Missy Elliott or, at this point right now, probably Shabuzi.
Okay. I've heard of that person.
Yeah. Which he does like country inspired hip hop. He has an album called Cowboys Live Forever, but Outlaws Never Die.
Okay.
And I got into his music sometime last year because I love country music. Well, certain parts of country music.
Okay.
And that's mostly because, Grandpa wanted to be a country western singer. And I would watch a lot of westerns with him and listen to a lot of country music with him. And so through like the process of ancestor veneration recently, I've been just kind of revisiting a lot more things that will make me feel closer to Grandpa. And Shabuzi is one of them.
All right, I'm going to have to give him an extra listen, you guys. Shabuzi.
Yeah, I know he's blowing up now because he was on Cowboy Carter.
Of course. But he's always been a thing from what I heard.
Yeah, his music is really, really good.
Okay.
His tone of voice, how deep his voice is very, very soothing. My favorite song by him is Let It Burn.
Okay.
It's so good. It gets you in the feels.
Okay.
But that's probably who I would choose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Missy Elliott would definitely make it very animated.
I think Missy for the highs. And Shabuzi for
the
like
lows.
the mids and the lows.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good question.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking about this film. It's one of my favorites. I know it's one of your favorites.
Of course.
Tupac's #1 fan.
Look, I have a whole Tupac drawer. And so the last 2 shirts I bought to fit my new body, I was just like, okay, I don't want to wear those because nothing about Poetic Justice on there. But I had like 5 shirts in there that was Poetic Justice. So I'm like, I'm getting ready to put it on. I don't care. But I have a whole drawer collection dedicated to Tupac shirts.
I love that. And I love you so much.
I love you
It is always
forever.
a joy and a pleasure to talk to you, to have you here at my humble abode.
Always.
And now we're going to go cook some food and watch some music videos. So you ain't got to go home, but you got to get out of here. And that's just how it goes. Thank you so much for watching, for coming back to season 2. Please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, share it with your mom. And we'll see you next time. Bye. Or do it like this. Like the little dog.
Oh. Let's get it.
Bye.
Here we go now.